Welcome to this episode of The Mystery Cast, right here on Tales of Earth, a show that we live stream every Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern at twitch.tv/comicstorian. If you want to support us, you can subscribe to Tales of Earth, the YouTube channel. Support us on Twitch by following, subbing, all of that. You can also buy some Tales of Earth merch through the link below if you're watching this, obviously, on YouTube. And you can also go to patreon.com/comicstorian and show your love and your support there as well. Guys, I have one thing to say. I haven't said it in a long time. I love the Illuminati.
Who doesn't?
So much.
I love the Illuminati. I agree. They're great.
Sound like a question.
I work for the I love the Illuminati.
Illuminati. I work for them. I'm obligated to love them.
Wait. I love the Illuminati.
Oh, I thought you were actually looking around for a second.
It's like somebody was in your house all of a sudden.
No, there's no one here.
Yeah. So today we are talking about 19 of the strangest unsolved mysteries of all time. Okay, that includes the universe.
All time.
So do we have some from the future?
Ooh,
an
interesting question.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
We should make a new list where we just make up unsolved mysteries that haven't actually happened yet.
Yes, I think that's a great idea.
That would be funny. That would be good.
Let's see here. This comes from Reader's Digest, so you know it's good.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to mess around. There's going to be no tomfoolery here.
Yeah.
I hope somebody out there actually has the name tomfoolery.
Oh, I'm sure they do. Parents are cruel. There was a study done on whether or not your name influences your personality, and the study was done on this young woman named Temptress,
who immediately became a stripper.
Basically, yeah. So she lived this very questionable lifestyle, and
Sure.
It was actually because of a spelling error in the hospital. It was supposed to be Tempest.
That's still not a good name.
Yeah,
it's still a crappy name, man.
There are way too many names that were misspelled or an error on the birth certificate that ended up being people's actual names. That I'm baffled that this is such a common
sometimes.
thing.
Yeah, sometimes parents are just so out of it, like they're so tired or drugged up or whatever from, giving birth that they just mess up the name and they're stuck with it. By the way, do you guys like my Hungary mug?
I thought you said Hungary for a second.
I didn't see
I'm emphasizing Gary.
I know, but I think you.
I hear it now.
Gary.
I hear it now. Let's move on.
It's just a picture of him. This is Hungary.
In the corner.
Anyway, what's our
yard wearing a bunny mask? By the way, guys, ladies and gentlemen, if you really want to be entertained, just look up strangest photos ever taken, or like strangest things I caught on camera, and there's no end to weird, just weird photos. Like they're not even mysterious photos; they're just weird. Yep, like a guy hugging a deer in his bedroom. Just hugging it.
Yeah,
is weird. Anyway,
live deer, dead deer.
No, it's alive. Like it's just standing there.
It's just his
and
pet.
They're like just standing there. Yeah, I guess.
So he's a Disney princess. Is what I'm hearing.
He's a Disney princess.
The person
and that's
hugging
his animal companion.
Yeah, he's hugging a deer.
Yeah.
Sorry.
If you wear a dress.
He's the
and you
Disney
have an animal companion. Yeah.
Disney figure of authority.
All right, number 1, the incident at Deity Lob Pass. On the first night of February 1959, 9 ski hikers died mysteriously in the mountains of what is now Russia. I'm pretty sure. Okay, the night of the incident, the group had set up camp on a slope, enjoyed dinner, and prepared for sleep. But something went catastrophically wrong because the group never returned. On February 26th, searchers found the hikers' abandoned tent, which had been ripped open from the inside. Surrounding the area were footprints left by the group. Some wearing socks, some wearing a single shoe, some barefoot, all of which continued to the edge of a nearby wood. That's where the first 2 bodies were found, shoeless and wearing only underwear. The scene bore marks of death by hypothermia, but as medical examiners inventoried the bodies as well as the other 7 that were discovered over the months that followed, hypothermia no longer made sense. In fact, the evidence made no sense at all. One body had evidence of a blunt force trauma consistent with a brutal assault. Another had third-degree burns. One had been vomiting blood. One was missing a tongue, and some of their clothing was found to be radioactive.
Theories,
only in Russia, I know. Theories floated include KGB interference, drug overdose, UFO, gravity anomalies.
Sure.
Okay. And the Russian version of the Yeti.
Love it. Which we all know is radioactive.
Which is radioactive, probably. I mean, it's Russia, right?
Yeah.
I can imagine the Russian version of the Yeti is like the single most terrifying Yeti in the world.
Oh, yeah. And whenever he comes up, he squats before yelling at you.
Okay. Recently, a documentary filmmaker presented a theory involving a terrifying but real phenomenon called infrasound, in which the wind interacts with the topography to create a barely audible hum that can nevertheless induce powerful feelings of nausea, panic, dread, chills, nervousness, raised heart rate, pick one, and breathing difficulties. The only consensus remains that whatever happened involved an overwhelming and possibly inhuman force. If you want even more unsolved mysteries, get a look at The Strange in Every State. Okay, that's another list. Yeah, so apparently gravitational anomalies make you lose your tongue.
That is true, and become radioactive.
Like, hey, Dan, so it's gravitational anomaly.
What if, hold on now, hypothetically, let's go down an even darker route. What if it drove them to such a level of insanity that they bit off their own tongue?
That's actually kind of what I was
thinking. And then it was
thinking.
Lost in the woods.
I guess.
One of them tripped. He just tripped and was talking.
What's really strange is just the variety of
the wounds and things like that.
Yes. Yeah, and just how they found it. Like,
I'm gonna say the fact that it's Russia makes me think that this might have been a government experiment on a couple of civilians that weren't aware they were being experimented on. I will be perfectly like radioactive, like missing tongues, like signs of what is in any other situation could be referred to as torture.
It's true.
I'm just saying.
Mean, you don't know. Yeah.
That's kind of creepy, though.
I mean, I guess So what? Like a caravan of soldiers come by, like, "Hello, campers. Here,
hello, fellow campers."
Yes, comrade campers. Here, take these green glowing pills. They will help you camp better. Bye.
We promise they are great for camping.
I don't know. It's a very strange. I have actually heard of this one before. I don't remember some of those details, but yeah, that's an infrasound, which can, I guess, make you go crazy.
Well, we have talked about infrasound multiple times actually before.
I was going to say we have done it, on different things.
Infrasound?
Yeah,
I guess we have.
Sure.
Yeah, I guess we have, haven't we?
This was just the first time they've ever referred to this phenomenon as infrasound, but we have talked about the like environment like creating sounds, hums, buzzes, things like that. Abnormal silence. I think we did one of those where it was just abnormally quiet or something. In that area, but
something like those lines. Yeah,
abnormally quiet. There's actually a chamber in Utah. It's the single quietest room in the world, or the second quietest room in the world. And basically, when you go in there, you can hear your own heartbeat. That's how quiet it is.
That's creepy.
Like the only sounds that you can hear are coming from your own body, which is,
that is pretty creepy.
I'd get a pretty good sleep in there.
If I remember correctly,
swallowing.
wasn't it proven that something? It was either that or a very similar situation. People cannot stay sane in an environment that is that quiet for more than a certain amount of time.
It was theorized. So there were like stories that went around this campus because it's at a university in Utah. Mm-hmm. And one of the theories is that no one lasted. I think it was past like 12 minutes or something.
Yeah.
And then, have you guys heard of the channel Veritasium?
No.
Huge science channel. The guy from Veritasium went into the chamber. He was like, I'm going to break that record. And he went in and he was sat in there for like an hour and he was fine. So I think it's all just like rumors that go around the campus. And, if you go in there longer than 12 minutes, you'll go insane.
Right.
And he actually said he really enjoyed the experience, just like complete sensory deprivation for,
right.
an hour. But yeah. All right. The next
that would
item.
imply I wasn't already insane, though.
I mean, I think if you just reason yourself into something, in most cases, I think you'll be fine. If you just remind yourself the reason it's quiet is because I'm in a sensory deprivation chamber, I'm okay.
No.
Like that is
No.
now if everything around you just suddenly went silent for no reason, that would be scary.
That would be kind of
I
scary.
can see that.
But you can still hear yourself. That would be frightening because you haven't gone deaf. Like you just, yeah.
I'm curious how similar to that what deaf people experience. As weird as that is to say, like I am curious how similar a full sensory deprivation would be similar, because I mean, I don't think they can hear their heartbeat, but they definitely can feel it. And like, I mean, a lot of us have seen those pictures of, or seen deaf people like holding onto speakers to hear the vibration or feel the vibrations of music to enjoy music that way. And so I'm wondering if this would be similar to that. Just a weird thought. But let's move on to this next.
That is a weird thought, Dan.
Oh, speaking of sounds,
I'm kidding. That's it's great. Sickening noises, more sound related stuff. In December 2016, a CIA officer checked into the American Embassy's health office in Havana, suffering from nausea, headache, and dizziness. Days later, 2 more CIA officers reported similar ailments. By late 2018, the number grew to 26 Americans and 13 Canadians experiencing nausea, hearing loss, vertigo, nosebleeds, and focusing issues. In all the cases, victims claimed that the symptoms were triggered by a strange noise they'd heard at their homes or hotel rooms. One person said the noise was high-pitched. Another described a beam of sound pointing into their rooms. Some insisted that the noise more closely resembled marbles rolling along the floor. The illnesses confounded medical experts. Doctors at the University of Pennsylvania who examined some of the victims diagnosed concussion-like symptoms but found no signs they'd suffered concussions. We know what you must be thinking. Do you? The Cuban government is up to something, right?
Yeah.
Okay. The Cubans vehemently deny these they're responsible.
What?
In many
denying it?
I guess the Cubans. Okay. Hang on. Oh, Havana, Cuba. Okay, never mind. There are a couple Havanas. I guess they're implying Cuba. Okay. The Cubans vehemently deny they're responsible, and many American investigators believe them. That's because they still don't know who or what made the victim sick. Was it a type of weapon? The CIA claims it doesn't know of any weaponry that could cause these symptoms. Well, of course, they're not going to come right out and claim it. Like, my goodness. Okay. What about ultrasound? One theory holds that a pair of covert eavesdropping devices placed too close to each other by Cuban agents may have inadvertently produced such a reaction. Okay. You just accidentally walk too close to each other with these things?
All the time.
Like the kind of feedback you hear when someone stands too close to a microphone. But the FBI has found no evidence to substantiate the argument. In fact, ultrasound is above the range of human hearing. That doesn't mean it can't affect you, though. Recordings of the sounds from some of the victims only added to the confusion. 2 scientists who studied the recordings believe they captured the sound of lovelorn male crickets. One of the scientists,
I mean, obviously,
blame
so
the crickets.
Horny crickets are giving me headaches?
Yes.
Yeah.
One of the scientists, Alexander Stubbs. You know how they turn movies or like mysteries into movies? That should be the movie, Horny Crickets.
That's what it's called, horny.
That's what it's called.
This is a weird take on A Bug's Life. I'm just telling you that right now.
Bug's Life. Oh yeah, well it's like the weird spin-off. Yeah, the non-Disney.
Yeah.
One of the scientists, Alexander Stubbs of the University of California, Berkeley, says the insects are incredibly loud. You can hear them from inside a diesel truck going 40 miles an hour on the highway. Still, the scientists had no idea why the sounds might lead to illness in humans. Oh, maybe it was just nerves. Cuba is a high-threat, high-stress post. A former embassy official told ProPublica.org, diplomats are warned that, quote, there will be surveillance, there will be listening devices in your house, probably in your car. For some people, that puts them in a high-stress mentality, in a threat anticipation mode. True, but then how to explain what happened in China? How to explain? Okay. In May 2018, yeah, I know. An American posted in the consulate. An American posted in the consulate in Guangzhou was diagnosed with the very same mystery illness. Ultimately, 15 Americans were evacuated. While the seemingly airborne cause of these airborne brain injuries is still a mystery, the fallout is clear. The Americans removed 60% of their diplomats from Cuba and expelled 15 Cuban diplomats from Washington, D.C. The mysterious sounds may well be the opening shots in a new kind of Cold War. A silent
horny
Cold War.
Cricket.
The horny cricket, yeah. What's this? That's actually the name of the weapon. That's the secret weapon.
Horny
They got the
cricket.
idea.
It's the upgraded version of the cricket from Men in Black.
Cricket from Men in Black.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do find it funny, though, that the article's like, so this happened in Cuba because people were told that they were going to get spied on, and so they got high-stress mentality. But how do you explain the exact same thing happening in China where they were told the exact same thing that they're probably being spied on and had the exact same reaction?
Right? Yeah.
What? Because that actually does sound like one of those, if you're paranoid and you have been told that people are listening in on you and you're not in your native homeland, I could see that putting you on edge and over a long period of time causing problems. Because, I mean, stress causes problems for people just in general. And that's just even on like normal levels of stress. I'm being spied on in a foreign country while I'm singing in my shower kind of stress. So.
Yeah. Better be singing that national anthem of theirs. All right. No, I agree. I think we really underestimate. In fact, more and more people are pushing for like, I guess, emotional education, like mental education in schools. And basically, like we focus so much on physical health. We don't focus enough on like mental health and understanding, the effects of your environment and your lifestyle and how that's affecting you mentally. I think stress is really underestimated or has been underestimated in the physical ailments it can cause. Mm-hmm. And yeah, if you know that you're in a potentially life-threatening situation and you're being spied on at all times, but you can't confirm it, like you don't actually know. Yeah, that can put you in a very stressful state.
Especially
this is why I always assume everyone is out to get me at all times. That way I'm just not stressed out.
Yeah.
Well, that's mostly just because you're like, whatever. If it happens, it happens.
Yeah.
Which is why Andy never raises his right hand on chat, because his gun is in his right hand.
That is true.
Just in case.
He just sits there. Yeah. All right. And the next one, ghost ship the Mary Celeste. I do believe we have talked about this one before.
I think
sounds familiar.
On December 4th, 1872, a British-American ship called the Mary Celeste was found empty and adrift in the Atlantic. It was found to be seaworthy and its cargo fully intact, except for a lifeboat, which it appeared to had been boarded in an orderly fashion. But why? We may never know, because no one on board was ever heard from again. In November 1872, the Mary Celeste set sail from New York bound for Genoa, Italy. Genoa. She was manned by Captain Benjamin Briggs and 7 crew members, including Briggs' wife and their 2-year-old daughter. Supplies on board were ample enough for 6 months and luxurious, including a sewing machine and an upright piano.
Wow, fancy.
Wow, yeah. Commentators generally agree that to precipitate the abandonment of a seaworthy ship, some extraordinary and alarming circumstance must have arisen. However, the last entry on the ship's daily log reveals nothing unusual, and inside the ship, all appeared to be in order. Theories over the years have included mutiny, pirate attack, and an assault by a giant octopus or sea monster.
Love it.
Obviously.
In recent years, scientists have posed the theory that the fumes from alcohol on board caused an explosion that, as a result of a scientific anomaly, did not leave behind signs of burning, but was terrifying enough that Briggs ordered everyone into the lifeboat. Interesting. So you have no measures to manage like a potential fire on board? Just abandon the boat, never be heard from again. Like,
I wonder.
I like to think that these three different things were actually all combined. So it was a group of pirates that were riding a giant octopus or sea monster, and then upon seeing it, the rest of the crew mutinied and joined the sea monster riding pirate.
Yes,
love it.
I think that's a great idea.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I love it.
I actually could see the like leaving no signs of burning, because it's kind of like the weird anomaly of if you've ever seen invisible fires on like racetracks. There's one, if you look up invisible fire racing car or something like that, there's we've all seen the oh my gosh, why can't I speak? Ricky Bobby, that movie with Will Ferrell, correct?
Yeah.
You know the part where he jumps out of the car and starts running around like he's on fire, but he's not on fire? That's based off of an actual thing that happened where a car got on fire. It's an invisible fire, but everyone's freaking out. And if you don't know it's an invisible fire, it looks like people going crazy, like Ricky Bobby. But it's interesting because that kind of thing...
An invisible fire.
Chet, look it up real quick. It's an actual thing. And so I could see something like that being a possibility, but I much prefer the pirates riding sea monsters starting up a mutiny, because that sounds way cooler. Also, how come every time it's a sea monster, it's always a giant octopus? When are we just going to get this giant trout? Just a giant trout, just like 60 feet long. Oh my God. Did you see that trout?
Or like a giant anemone.
Yeah, we were attacked by a giant sea bass.
It's a giant clownfish.
What would you
read its head as it flies?
It's guys. There's an emergency. It's a giant anemone. It's a giant anemone. No, that's not right.
It's one of those balls with the spike coming off of it. Damn it.
Yeah, so Dan, it's invisible fire. Ethanol fires, otherwise known as invisible fire, is very dangerous. Ethanol burns a blue flame and smokeless and are darn near invisible to the naked eye. If you cannot see it, you could very easily find yourself enveloped in fire before you realize it. That's terrifying.
Yes, I actually I learned that after I saw Ricky Bobby. So obviously when I saw it the first time, I was like, okay, this is pretty funny. And then later I found that out and I'm like, that's an actual thing? Like, imagine like if this had happened and you just see someone and everyone's just laughing their ass off at this guy running around, but they're actually on fire. Could you imagine that?
It's like our world is just like waiting to destroy us with invisible dangers. Like,
damn nature, you scary.
Damn scary. It's like what were they? Air bombs.
Oh,
like over the Bermuda Triangle, like these just pockets of air that can just take out airplanes that just blink. Air bombs, ethanol fires, invisible fires.
Was like, this? I think this ship story was related to that, wasn't it? The Bermuda Triangle talks. I feel like that's where we heard this one.
Mm-hmm. Probably the Mary Celeste.
Yeah.
I think it went through the Bermuda Triangle.
Okay. Or one of the triangles.
Yes. All right. So. This next one is one of my favorites, only because I like the latest theory attached to this story. Who and where is D.B. Cooper? The next unsolved mystery, November 24, 1971. Dan Cooper was a passenger on Northeast Airlines Flight 305 from Portland to Seattle, a 30-minute flight. He was described by passengers and flight attendants as a man in his mid-40s, wearing a dark suit, black tie with a mother-of-pearl tie clip, and a neatly pressed white-collared shirt. He took his seat, lit a cigarette, and politely ordered a bourbon and soda, for which he paid cash. Shortly after takeoff, he handed a note to a 23-year-old flight attendant who ignored it, assuming it was just the man's phone number. Miss, you'd better look at that note, Dan Cooper told her. I have a bomb. The note's exact wording is part of the mystery, since Cooper reclaimed it after the flight attendant read it, but his demands were for $200,000 in negotiable American currency, worth $1 million today. For 4 parachutes and a fuel truck standing by in Seattle to refuel the plane on arrival, the flight attendant brought the demands to the captain. The airline's president authorized full cooperation. The other passengers had no idea what was happening, having been told that landing was delayed due to mechanical difficulties. At 5:39 p.m., the plane landed. An airline employee delivered a cash-filled knapsack and parachutes, and Cooper allowed all passengers and 2 flight attendants to leave the plane. During refueling, Cooper outlined his plan to the crew, a southeasterly course toward Mexico, with 1 further refueling stop in Nevada. 2 hours later, the plane took off. When it landed in Reno, Cooper's absence was noted. Cooper, whom the media mistakenly referred to as D.B. Cooper, was never seen or heard from again. No parachute was found, and the ransom money was never used. In 1980, a young boy on vacation with his family in Oregon found several packets of the ransom money, identifiable by serial number, leading to an intense search of the area for Cooper and his remains. Nothing was ever found. For a time, it was speculated that Mad Men's fictional Don Draper was the man who would become Cooper in the real world. A parachute strap was found in 2017 at one of Cooper's possible landing sites. Yeah. One of my favorite attached theories is that Tommy Wiseau, the guy who directed and created the movie
I've
Roanoke,
heard of this
is
one.
D.B. Cooper.
Heard that one.
Yeah. Because if you
wait, The Room as in...
the movie.
Okay, yeah, that one.
Yes.
Okay.
People
I didn't even have to say it,
believe,
but
yeah, people actually believe that Tommy Wiseau is D.B. Cooper.
How funny.
Because he comes out of nowhere with all this money, makes this movie. Right. Some people have even said that D.B. Cooper had like a strange accent. Nobody really knew where he was from.
Wouldn't he be a lot older though at this point?
I think he would be. I mean,
that's the thing. Like Tommy Wiseau is, he is 64. So if D.B. Cooper was in his mid-40s...
Appeared to be in his mid-40s.
Appeared to be in his mid-40s, he would be, be pushing like 70-something now. Mid-70s,
yeah,
late
but
70s.
To be fair, some people look like they're 40 and could be a lot younger.
I mean,
Houston's 31 or 30, and he looks like he's 12.
That is true.
Maybe he was a 20-year-old that just looked like he was 40 because he was stressed as fuck.
Well, how is he going to pull off the heist?
Yeah, I was going to say he was about to rob a plane, I suppose.
Yeah, he aged like 20 years in a week. All right.
How interesting.
Next one, living statues. From 1917 to 1928, this is something I've never heard of before, by the way. 500,000 people were afflicted with a ghastly condition that could be part of the plotline of a horror film. The victims, very much alive and conscious, found themselves in inexplicably frozen states. Their static bodies, prisons for their minds. Encephalitis lethargica, EL, aka the sleeping sickness, first appeared in Europe and quickly spread around the world, reaching epidemic levels in North America, Europe, and India by 1919. About a third of those stricken with the illness died. Of the survivors, nearly half eventually found themselves unable to physically interact with the world around them, all the while fully aware of their surroundings. Though occasionally capable of limited speech, eye motion, and even laughter, they generally appeared as living statues, totally motionless for hours, days, weeks, or years. The cause is unknown, but one theory is brain inflammation triggered by a rare strain of Streptococcus. The bacteria Streptococcus. The bacteria responsible for many sore throats each year. Science's best guess is that the bacteria mutated, provoking the immune system to attack the brain, leaving the victim helpless. None of this explains why the illness disappeared, only to resurface sporadically, be it in Europe in the 1950s or China 10 years ago, when a 12-year-old girl was hospitalized for 5 weeks with the disease. Are such occurrences the new normal, or are they signs that EL could be planning something bigger any day, as if it's intelligent?
Yes.
A 2004 analysis of 20 patients with symptoms remarkably similar to EL concluded that whatever ailed them is still prevalent. As such, history's so-called sleeping sickness remains the stuff of nightmares.
That's
a frightening.
Creepy.
I mean,
that's
that
sleep paralysis to a whole new level.
Yeah.
Well, seriously, I mean, you can't move, you can't talk, you can't do anything, but you're still 100% conscious.
This is what they did to not Impulse. The Flash story, the one where they killed Bart Allen.
I don't remember the.
Can't remember the kid's name, but that's exactly what they do to him. They turn him into a living statue. That is creepy. That's a thing that just randomly happens to people.
Yeah,
that is.
Well, it also
inertia. Thank you,
basically became a. I mean, it became a pandemic.
Yeah, that's.
And
imagine. Oh my God!
And
Imagine if that was happening right now instead of the coronavirus. It was the living statue virus. What if that was the pandemic we were currently dealing with, and you went outside? I feel like
people would have taken it more seriously.
Yes. Yeah, at least like, at home, like you can move. Like you can still move, you're quarantined, but you're still like free to do what you want.
But just imagine like being people that were alive during this time.
Yeah.
Like how freaky that would have been to just.
Well, it's terrifying.
Oh my gosh, that is.
I think there would have been a bigger uproar or like a bigger reaction or response had they had access to information the way we have it today.
I'm surprised I never heard about this one in China. I feel like if it was only 10 years ago. Actually, when was this written? Does it have a date?
Yeah, I couldn't find the date on it.
Yeah, I can't find a date. Just like real life. Oh,
that's sad.
I made myself feel bad.
You should.
No, I can't see a date on this. Damn.
Yep. Well, that's a terrifying illness.
That is absolutely horrifying.
Yeah.
That's always a like a genuine fear of mine is not being able to move. Like that's kind of like why the whole like being buried alive kind of thing is such a fear of the being trapped without being able to do anything. Like feeling like that in my own body would just be
Yeah, any kind of like loss of control is terrifying.
Loss of control while you're still aware. That's the terrifying part.
Yeah.
All right, our next one is roaming ruins. It's not unusual to find junk in Brazil's Guanabara Bay, but what about Robert Marks unearthed there in 1982 was an unusual kind of foreign matter. In an underwater field the size of 3 tennis courts located 15 miles from the shore lay the remains of some 200 Roman ceramic jars, a few fully intact. According to Marks, a professional treasure hunter, the jars appeared to be twin-handled amphorae that were used to transport goods such as grains and wine in the 3rd century. But how did they get there? The first Europeans didn't reach Brazil until 1500. The Romans, who traded primarily in Mediterranean port cities and the Middle East, had little incentive to invest in ships that could cross oceans. However, they did sail as far as India. Perhaps some untrained navigator lost his way in a storm, or maybe mutineers steered the ship westward, or maybe it was a giant anemone. We may never know, nor are we likely to uncover more evidence. Brazil closed the Bay of Jars. That sounds like an interesting story, the Bay of Jars, to further research in 1983 in an effort to deter looters. It said Marx claims the government didn't want the area explored because finding Roman-era artifacts there would mean that, contrary to Brazil's official history, the Portuguese were not the first Europeans to reach the country.
Oh, yeah.
And the truth, it's resting 100 feet under the sea.
Interesting.
Under the sea.
That's cool.
I would not be shocked if the Romans somehow made it there.
Yeah. Well, it's
a very advanced civilization.
Right. Would it be Western Europeans were not the first people to reach the Americas besides the Native Americans. You had the Chinese actually came here way before they did.
Vikings.
So Vikings, yeah. Extraterrestrials, aliens.
Sure, yeah.
Lizard people.
The Illuminati, also known as
the
lizard
ancient
people.
origins of them.
Mm-hmm. All right. Should we talk about the Voynich manuscript? Do you guys remember that one?
Yeah, we talked about that one a couple of times, though, haven't we?
Was that the one?
Yes.
Which one was that? Just a quick.
Ancient, or what appears to be an ancient manuscript, written in an undecipherable language, with various drawings of strange plants and naked ladies.
That's right. I remember that.
And naked ladies.
The Voynich, I'll give you guys, this one's short. The Voynich manuscript is a roughly 250-page book written in an entirely unknown language writing system. It's been carbon dated back to the 1400s and includes illustrations of plants that don't resemble any known species. It's named for the Polish book dealer who purchased it in 1912. It is believed to have been intended as a medical text. Its first confirmed owner was George Barish, 1585 to 1662, an alchemist from Prague. That should be the name of a story, The Alchemist from Prague. That would be cool. Who discovered it taking up space uselessly in his library, because that's what you do with mysterious manuscripts. You just cache them in somewhere.
It was actually using it to level out his table for the longest time.
The Voynich manuscript.
And he was like, what is this?
He just flips through it. Yeah, I can't read this language. I mean, what is this? It's like Chinese. Looks like Chinese or something.
Something weird.
Something weird.
That was an interesting accent for a person from Prague.
That's what they sound like. Yeah.
Yeah, damn.
Barish tried to investigate the manuscript's origins to no avail. The manuscript changed hands for centuries until it was purchased by Voynich, who posited that it was authored by Albertus Magnus, an alchemist, or Roger Bacon, an early scientist. However, some believe that Voynich fabricated the manuscript and its history all by himself. Various other hoaxes have been proposed over the years. Of course, that wouldn't explain the carbon dating of the paper and ink. Centuries after its first alleged discovery, the Voynich manuscript remains as impenetrable and inexplicable as ever.
Well, if I learned anything from Full Metal Alchemist, it was that alchemists love to make their writing very confusing for non-alchemists to read.
Of course. Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, we also did that in elementary school.
This is true.
You know, it was always like the hidden language between friends or something. It was like, oh, this is a language only we understand.
And it was always Pig Latin.
It was always Pig Latin, or it was like normal letters with like a circle added to it or something. Yeah. I don't know. All right. Now we're going to jump into some reincarnation. Do the Pollock sisters prove reincarnation? Yes. Today, 24% of Americans believe in reincarnation, although scientists tend to poo-poo the possibility. I love the writing.
Poo-poo.
Poo-poo.
Love it.
Every once in a while, an unsolved mystery comes around that is so compelling and otherwise unexplainable that it gives even scientists pause. And that is what we have in the story of the Pollock sisters. I would love to see a scientist pause. Like genuinely just like pause. Yeah. In 1957, two young English sisters, Joanna Pollock, 11, and Jacqueline Pollock, 6, died in a tragic car accident. 1 year later, their mother gave birth to twins, Jillian and Jennifer. When the twins were old enough to talk, they began identifying and requesting toys that had belonged to their dead sisters, pointing out landmarks only their dead sisters would have known, such as a school they'd attended, and sometimes panicking upon seeing cars idling. That car is coming to get us, they reportedly shrieked on one occasion. This is super creepy. I have actually heard of this before, though, but I'm like getting chills.
I got a little bit
like
of a chill
at the concept of this. Yeah. After the twins turned 5, these incidents became less frequent, and the girls went on to lead normal lives. Still, the story of the Pollock sisters made its way to Dr. Ian Stevenson, 1918 to 2007, a psychologist who studied reincarnation. After studying thousands of supposed cases, and actually, if you guys want to look up a really interesting topic, the like real world stories of reincarnation are absolutely fascinating. After studying thousands of supposed cases, Dr. Stevenson wrote a book telling of 14 he believed to have been real, including that of the Pollock sisters. If you want to be spooked out by some more unsolved mysteries, read the Science Mysteries No One Has Figured Out. That could be a good list. Yeah, so but generally a lot of these like reincarnation is real stories are basically that. They're young children, usually children who just know way more about something than they should.
Mm-hmm.
Personal details about like soldiers that died in World War I, World War II. And like there was a story of a young boy who claimed to have been a World War II pilot. I think this boy was like born in like the 2000s, so it's a very recent story. And he just had this affinity for airplanes and like loved World War II trivia and history, and he just knew things. And he actually claimed to be a specific soldier. Like he actually claimed to be a very specific person who died in World War II who was a pilot. I guess they like took this boy out to where this pilot supposedly died, and he had this like extreme emotional reaction to the whole experience. So yeah.
Interesting.
Let's see here. Yeah.
That is kind of the line
Yeah.
in that car is coming to get us that's the creepy part.
It's creepy. It's creepy. Yeah. And it's so strange that these twins, would have such affinity for things that
they realistically shouldn't have. Yeah.
Yeah, they realistically shouldn't have. All right, more children's stories. Let's see here. This was actually in one of the lists that I was looking at earlier. Where are the Solder children? The next unsolved mystery is similar to the Pollocks. George and Jenny Solder of West Virginia were forced to cope not only with the immeasurable loss of their children, but also with the mysterious circumstances surrounding that loss. After the Solder home burned to the ground on the night before Christmas 1945, 5 of the 10 Solder children were still alive and accounted for. But what about the other 5?
That's all not accounts, half bad. Just saying.
Wow. It would have seemed that they had vanished into thin air. Notice how we don't say vanished into smoke. That's because in the ruins of the fire, 0 physical evidence of the children could be found, which is virtually impossible from a scientific standpoint. But that wasn't all that smelled off about the events of that night. Apparently, George tried to save the children who he believed were still trapped inside by using his coal truck. Which strangely was inoperable. The phone lines to the house were found to have been cut. A woman claimed to have seen all 5 missing children peering from a passing car while the fire was still in progress. And a woman at the Charleston Hotel who saw the children's photos in a newspaper said she had seen 4 of the 5 a week after the fire. Quote, the children were accompanied by 2 women and 2 men, all of the Italian extraction. She said in a statement, I tried to talk to the children in a friendly manner, but the men appeared hostile and wouldn't allow it. The Solder family theorized that the children had been kidnapped, perhaps in an attempt to extort money, perhaps to coerce George into joining the local mafia. The Solders were Italian immigrants, or perhaps in retaliation for George's outspoken criticism of Mussolini and Italy's fascist government. From the 1950s, until Jenny Solder's death in the late 1980s, the Solder family maintained a billboard on State Route 16 with pictures of the 5 vanished children and offering a reward for information. The last known surviving Solder child, Sylvia, 69, still doesn't believe her siblings perished in the fire.
That's
Wow.
creepy. That creeps me out because that sounds legitimately like a planned fire to kidnap children.
Yes. Well, and the other article that I read, story stated that that night they could hear this, what sounded like a massive bang on the house. Like something crashed into the house and then the house caught on fire. And yeah.
God damn, that's
so.
Oh, that's creepy.
Yeah. All right. Let's see here. More disappearances.
Everybody's disappearing.
All right. What really happened to young Walter Collins? In 2008, Clint Eastwood's film Changeling reawakened interest in one of the most bizarre and tragic crime stories in the 1920s. Single mom Christine Collins reported her 9-year-old son, Walter, missing in March 1928 from their home in Los Angeles. 5 months later, the police brought Walter back to Christine, except it wasn't Walter, and Christine knew it. But the LA police dismissed Christine's concerns, going as far as to accuse her of terrible mothering and having her committed to a mental hospital. The real Walter Collins was never found, and over time, authorities came to believe he was one of the victims of convicted child murderer Gordon Stewart Northcott. Although Northcott's mother offered a confession for killing Walter, whatever happened to Walter Collins? His body was never found, and no one ever learned what really happened, nor has it been established with any certainty why the police were so invested in covering up the boy's disappearance that they brought a different child back to Christine and tried to convince her and the rest of the world that it was Walter.
Plus, where'd they get the kid? Where'd they get this new kid?
That is a good point.
Right?
So wait, so hold on though. So they've confirmed that the child that came back was definitely not Walter?
Yes, they've pretty much, I'm pretty sure they've essentially admitted it. That
established that it was not in fact the right child.
It was not the child, yeah.
Okay, all right. Because I was going to say, the rest of this article is going on like that this was definitely not Walter. It's like, well, how do we know it wasn't Walter and the mother just wasn't insane? But if they've officially like come out and said, yeah, we just brought back a different kid, okay, I give it to you.
Right.
Sorry, you wanted Walter? I thought you said Wallace.
My bad.
Wallace,
see, that's why we shouldn't do this over the phone.
Wallace isn't that bad. He's like setting fire to stuff. All right, he's not great. I mean, to be honest.
Where did you find this kid? He was setting fire to a school.
Neighborhood cats.
Yeah,
Jesus, guys.
All right, next item on the list. Something I have never heard of before, but it's interesting. The bridge at Overton that calls dogs to their maker.
I'm sorry.
The Overton.
Oh, I've heard this one. No, I think we did.
Actually, haven't.
Hold on.
I think we did this when, or I did it when we were doing the Instagram.
Oh, okay.
Wait, hold on. Which one are you looking at? It's not right.
I've gone down a little bit. There's so many items on this list. I have to skip some of them.
I found it.
Yep.
Okay.
The Overton Bridge near Dumbarton seems to call dogs to leap to their death. The end. A perfect spot for unsolved mysteries. Since the early 1960s, some 50 canines have perished, and hundreds more have jumped but survived. Reports slate via their Atlas Obscura blog, with some returning for a second leap onto the jagged rocks 50 feet below.
I didn't do it the first time. I'm coming back.
Yeah, the Scottish Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals has sent representatives to investigate, but to no avail. In terms of scientific truth, it is debatable, if not incredibly unlikely, that dogs are capable of forming an intent to die. Yet, something is luring dogs. I think I hear a child coming down the stairs. If you guys see something really creepy.
Oh my God, that just saying that the way you did before it clicked in my head that you had kids.
Sorry. No. I could hear footsteps, and we're talking about creepy stuff.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
I'm not creepy.
No, you're not. I just
agree to disagree.
Okay.
Eleanor has come down the stairs before and snuck up behind me. So, okay. Where was I? Scottish Society. It is debatable, if not unlikely, that dogs are capable of forming an intent to die. Yet something is luring dogs off that bridge, often from the very same spot, and always on sunny, dry days. Many theories have arisen, including that the bridge is haunted. This was a popular theory after a local man threw his baby son to his death from the bridge in 1944. A mink is marking the area with an almost irresistible scent, and a sound anomaly exists at the bridge that only dogs can hear. Whatever is causing this phenomenon, dog owners would be wise to take heed and keep their dogs on leashes.
Okay, so there's only one way I can see to test this theory.
Yes.
We each get a dog. I go there one day, see if the dog jumps. Dan, you have to go the next day, see if the dog jumps. Gary, you go the next day, see if the dog jumps.
Okay. I mean,
if all three dogs jump, we can agree that it is something to do with the bridge and not our terrible pet ownership.
True. True.
If only like Dan's dog jumps, that we know that Dan was doing something to that dog that caused it to want to kill itself.
Yes.
What?
Has
Science, Dan. It's science. Honestly, if I had to guess that someone would be awful to the dog, it would scream you. But anyway, what's next? Any other?
Anyway, the big gray man.
That's what they call me.
That is, yes.
Giant
The
squid.
big gray man rides the giant squid in the sea. I don't know. I'm
Just
trying
read
to
the
combine
article,
things.
Giant
Jerry.
trout.
Yeah. The giant
Sea
trout,
bass.
the sea bass. All right. The big gray man is an inhuman creature that is said to haunt the summit and passes of the second highest peak in Scotland. Yay, another Scottish story. Ben McDewey
Scotland is
in
just
the
full
native.
of things.
It actually, Scotland is.
Mhm.
Ben McDewey in the native Scottish tongue, the creature is known as Amphir Lathmore, like the Yeti of the Himalayas, the Bigfoot, also known as Sasquatch of the American Pacific Northwest. The big gray man has been seen by few eyewitnesses. What makes the big gray man particularly frightening is that his physical characteristics don't resemble that of a bear. Okay. And thus sightings can't be dismissed as bear sightings. I see where they're going with that.
Okay.
Those who have, it's like, well, what does the big gray man look like? Not a bear.
I tell you right now what he doesn't look like, and that's a bear.
That doesn't help anybody.
I was asking what he looks like. I know what you're asking, but I'm saying he doesn't look like a bear. Just so you
Right.
know.
So if you're
I
looking
think
for
we
a
can all.
bear-
Okay, a picture of bear. Not like that.
Not like that. Great. You got the sketch artist there, like,
Yeah.
okay. Not
The sketch
a bear.
artist just like draws a picture of a bear, and underneath it just says "not like this."
Not like this. Those who have seen the big gray man, and actually, what if seeing the big gray man messes with your brain somehow, and it like projects an image of a bear into your brain, but you know it's wrong.
Mhm.
Right. And that's
And
what
so-
drives you crazy.
And that's what drives, yeah. Everybody's kind of like constantly trying to ask you, like, what does it look like? And you're like, I know it doesn't look like a bear. I know that. Like,
Without a shadow of a doubt.
yeah. All right. Those who have seen the big gray man described it as extremely tall, over 10 feet, and human-like with short hair, broad shoulders, and long arms. Nearly all reports of sightings include the sound of gravel crunching beneath footfalls. Scientists have been able to come up with an explanation for the sightings and the accompanying sounds, although psychologists have proposed that those who have supposedly seen and heard the big gray man have been in a state of physical and mental anguish brought on by exhaustion and or isolation.
Ooh, that means we're going to hear a lot more sightings soon.
Nice.
Big gray man in our house,
Yeah, because of all the isolation.
backyard. Yeah.
Everyone's isolated.
For now, the big gray man remains a mystery. But if you go to Scotland, let us know if you run into the big gray man. Or the
Okay.
thing that doesn't look like a bear.
Right.
Oh my gosh, is that it? No, I think that's a bear. Okay, it's not the big gray man. Let's go.
It's
somewhere.
not the
That one
bear.
has more bear-like qualities.
Yes. So it's like, well, we shouldn't have bears in this area, so yeah. All right. The Lost Colony of Roanoke. Something that I'm actually really surprised we've never talked about.
Yeah, I actually
On Mystery
I
Cast.
recognize the name because of Supernatural.
Yes. Well, yeah. It's a
But-
very popular lost colony as far as lost colonies go.
Yeah.
The Lost Colony of Roanoke. In 1587, John White led a group of people from Britain to found an English colony setting on Roanoke Island, one of a chain of barrier islands known as the Outer Banks of North Carolina. White left for more supplies, but on his return 3 years later, found the colony meticulously abandoned with all houses and fortifications dismantled with care. Before he'd left the colony, White had instructed the colonists that if they were taken by force, they were to carve a cross into a nearby tree. But there was no cross. The only clue was the word Croatoan, the name of a native tribe allied with the English, which was carved into a post. White took this to mean that the colonists had moved to Croatoan Island, known as Hatteras. Ensuing investigations turned up claims that the colonists had been slaughtered by the Powhatan tribe, but there is no archaeological evidence of this. And a recent re-examination of the primary sources indicates that any massacre that occurred was not of this particular group of colonists, but rather a group of colonists who had arrived earlier. More enduring theories involve integration between the colonists and the Croatoans or other local tribes. But so far, no DNA evidence has positively identified any descendants of the colony. Scientists still can't explain these ocean mysteries. This person really likes linking to other articles.
It really does,
It
even when
does.
it's a
Like,
little bit of a stretch.
Yes, exactly.
It's like
How do I
missing
end
colony.
this sentence?
Ocean mysteries.
Ocean
Let's do
mysteries,
it.
yes.
Yeah.
I would like to see. So we actually just introduced Eleanor, our daughter, to the Disney Pocahontas movie this morning, and I would like to see a Disney Roanoke.
I'd love to hear the
really dark
musical
in the
number
second
when they
half.
start getting kidnapped or slaughtered. It's gonna
Yeah, I
be
was
a
gonna say
great
it's real
musical
dark
movie.
in the second half.
Right.
First half of the movie is about this colony that try to befriend the Indians and things like that, or the Native
But what I
Americans.
love about
The second half is the slaughtering of the entire colony.
what I love about this story is that John White left for supplies and came back 3 years.
So, having
later.
done some research for one of our earlier videos,
Yes.
the reason being, so it was about a 3 to 6 month journey, depending on the weather,
Right.
from the colony to England. When he got there, England had just gone to war with Spain, and all ships were pulled into service to the crown.
Gotcha.
So therefore, he was not allowed to return.
Interesting.
So it was
okay.
like 3 years later that he was finally given the supplies and allowed to return to the colony.
So when he left, he was like, "Guys, I'll be right back. I'm just going to
pretty much." Yeah, he was like, "Guys, 6 months, 9 months tops, right? I'll be right back. Don't even worry about it.
I'll be right back. Yeah,
3
just don't go
years
anywhere.
later.
Just don't go anywhere."
And I
I'll be right
believe
back.
he left a wife and daughter there.
Oof, that's frightening.
Yeah, that he never saw again.
Oof,
Wow.
man. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Roanoke.
They were like,
okay.
"Dad just went out for a pack of smokes. Said he'll be right back."
Yes, it'll be right back. I mean, how frightening would that be to come back to this colony that seems to be going really well,
Mm-hmm.
and to find literally nobody there, no sign of struggle. Everything is very well dismantled, very well taken care of.
Well, the other thing was the original the spot they decided to start the colony on wasn't where they were originally going to go. Where they had put the colony was originally, there was another colony that also was massacred by Native Americans, and they were supposed to go to a different spot, and they were just like, we'll just put the colony here again. It'll be fine, probably, right?
Yeah, right.
Like, what? No. But anyway, sorry.
Yeah, I just love how like Native Americans are portrayed in like Western pop culture, movies, TV shows, like animated films, as always super peaceful, very understanding, in touch with nature. They're never portrayed as the bad guys, as though they could never do any wrong. And now I obviously, like, the Europeans did some terrible things, and like you can't justify that. But no civilization and no single group of people is that peaceful and like harmless, like anywhere in the world.
And if they are, they're up to something.
And if they,
you got to assume.
Yeah. You got to assume. So our next item on the list is the Circleville letters. In 1976, residents of Circleville, Ohio, began receiving hate mail that has wreaked havoc ever since. The letters, postmarked for Columbus, were invasive and accusatory, highlighting a supposed affair between school bus driver Mary Gillespie. No way. Gillespie, and the school superintendent. Oh no. One letter addressed to Mary's husband, Ron, threatened his life if he didn't put a stop to the affair. By 1977,
what will the church elders think?
By 1977, the was dead, the result of a suspicious one-car crash involving shots fired. When the sheriff ruled the death an accident, however, residents began receiving letters accusing the sheriff of a cover-up.
Wait, hold on. How do you rule it as an accident when it was a one-car crash that involved gunfire? Yeah, that was definitely an accident.
Yeah, it was definitely definitely.
Yeah.
That actually wasn't even your husband. This is Ron. Hey, Ron, say hello. No, you're crazy. We know this is your husband. You go to the hospital real quick.
The letters continued throughout the 1970s and early 1980s, and even after Ron's sister's husband, so his brother-in-law, Paul Fresher, was convicted of writing the letters and attempting to murder Mary via a booby trap rigged pistol What in the world is happening in Ohio? Even with Freshshore in prison, however, the letters continued. He even received one himself. In 1994, Freshshore was released, and he maintained his innocence until his death in 2012. The true identity of the Circleville letter writer remains unknown. Some still believe it was Freshshore. Others believe it was Mary herself, and that she used the letters to concoct and support the perfect murder of her own husband. Ugh.
I like the idea of the booby trap pistol because to me it's like he pulls it and then like a log comes down from like a tree, slams into him. Because that's what it sounds like to me. I don't know why. When you say booby trapped pistol,
I expected the gun to fire. That's not what happened.
That's not what happened. He's like he squeezes the trigger and a bear trap like closes on his ankle.
Oh man, that's hilarious.
Bear trap. It actually falls off the ceiling onto his head.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Falls off the ceiling.
I pulled the trigger and then the piano exploded, which I thought was weird.
It's weird because we don't even own a piano.
We don't even own it. I thought it was weird when I walked in. I was like, what is that new piano doing here?
I would love to see like something like that acted out. What are those mechanisms called where it's like a chain reaction of like objects?
Domino effect?
Domino effect. Yeah. It's a particular type of machine. You know, you send the
pretty sure it's called Mousetrap. It was a board game.
Anyway, whatever that kind of machine is called, I'd love to see that booby trap. So like the most long drawn out booby trap in like film history.
Right, and like every time something happens, they turn and look at it like in the movie.
What's gonna happen? What's gonna happen?
What's gonna happen? Do you think we should move? No. We shouldn't move.
Stupid.
All right. Next item, the Tunguska event. On the morning of June 30th, 1908, 770 square miles of forest in Siberia, Russia were flattened by what would have appeared to have been an explosion, except that there were no witnesses and no other evidence. The phenomenon known as the Tunguska event has been classified by scientists as the largest impact event, which means a recordable impact between two astronomical objects, such as an asteroid on the Earth. Okay. In recorded history, yet no impact crater has ever been found, which would be an important earmark of an impact event.
That is true, yes.
Thus, scientists can only surmise that what may have happened, which may be that an asteroid exploded over the Earth, because that's not, I feel like sometimes that maybe that's more terrifying than an actual impact.
Oh, yeah.
Just them exploding in the air.
Like if it explodes in the atmosphere kind of thing?
Yeah. And the destruction that ensued beneath it in Siberia was a result of after effects. Yeah. Wow. So just an exploding asteroid. Hey.
And apparently trees have still not grown there.
Interesting.
Really?
I have to look
well, we've pretty much hit an hour.
Let's do one more, just because the next one I feel like a lot of people will actually remember because it's a more recent one.
Yes. Let's get to it real fast.
Oh,
okay.
Man.
The case, I actually almost read the fake case number. The disappearance of Malaysian Airlines Flight 370. The last of this collection of unsolved mysteries took place on March 8th, 2014, while flying from Malaysia to China. A Boeing 777 carrying 239 passengers and crew members seemed to have vanished into thin air. The multinational search effort, the largest in aviation history, has turned up a mere 20 pieces of aircraft debris. The Prime Minister of Malaysia has declined to comment other than to say that the aircraft disappeared over the Indian Ocean. The lack of closure has engendered multiple theories, many of which are considered conspiracy theories. No way. Which, according to Harvard professor Cass Sunstein, are a natural product of horrific and disastrous situations because such events make people angry, fearful, and looking for a target. Theories include hijacking captured by the United States, crew suicide. It was reported that the pilot was having marital problems.
Marital.
Sorry. I was like, the air marshal
problems.
Yeah, they were having problems with the air marshal. Yeah, marital problems. A fire aboard the aircraft, vertical entry into the sea. That's one way to put it. A meteor strike, and even alien abduction, because we always end up on aliens. Dan, can you say it for us real fast?
Aliens!
Thank you.
Good. Nicely done.
I had to get my hair up more for it. All right.
I like the idea of a vertical entry into the sea. It's like, so do you have any crashes? No, but I've vertically entered the ground like 4 or 5 times.
So crashed? No.
No.
Yeah, no, not once.
No, crashing is accidental. I entered
I meant to
vertically.
do this.
Okay.
Yeah. I meant to do
Have you
it.
ever landed an aircraft on its nose, going really fast?
You mean vertically?
Vertically, yeah. Notwithstanding the passage of 3 years and the expenditure of $160 million scouring thousands of square miles of ocean, the disappearance of Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 and the 239 people aboard remains a mystery. Yeah.
See, this
still hasn't been solved.
This one, I think, I really wanted it to be mentioned at least once, because a lot of the time we always go through a lot of the disappearances or the different conspiracies from the past, and we always have like come to the same conclusion or kind of narrow down to, well, back then they didn't have the technology, they didn't have the resources, and that's what makes this one very, very interesting to me, because we do have the technology. We do have the
it's
resources.
not like you could be like, oh, I don't even know. I mean, there's no way they could have found it.
Exactly.
Because they didn't even find a black box, right?
Yeah, they found nothing.
They found nothing.
And so it's such a mysterious incident, because we're sitting here wondering what's happened, and for all we know, in a couple years, maybe 10 or 20 years, we may actually find out what actually happened, and it's been under our noses the whole time, or it was this huge cover up, and so that's why I really wanted to make sure that this one was said, because I remember when this happened, and Reddit literally was nothing but memes and theories,
and
like that's all it was. And so this was probably my personal first real experience with a conspiracy that has happened while I'm alive. I'm not sure if there's another one that I can think of that may have happened besides this one. And I don't know. I think it's crazy because it's got to show up somewhere. Like, they got to reappear. Like, it's weird for it to not. But I don't know.
I'm looking at so the one that, because it says, theories include hijacking or capture by the United States. So I was like, okay, so what's the theory behind capture by the United States? It's literally just captured by the United States is the theory. There's nothing surrounding those theories. There's no theories. But the reason why the United States would capture them, like, I'm thinking like, oh, maybe there would be something. It's literally just captured by the United States.
Yeah.
Okay, why? Because it's the U.S. That's what they do, guys.
We were bored. We went to the Indian Ocean and captured a Malaysian air flight, and we stole it.
Special forces dudes were just irritated and bored one day.
It was actually a training practice, but they grabbed the wrong airplane.
Yeah, that's what it was. We don't want to admit it.
That's
a good list.
I also went back and looked up the picture for that Tunguska event, and that's actually pretty creepy. Like, it's just a giant forest with a giant circle of just flat land.
That's why it's really throwing people off. Now, because obviously there's the what could have done it, but then there's also the fact that no trees have grown there since.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's been almost 100 years.
And it's not even
I think at this point it's over 100 years.
Small area either. It's like a large section. It's the Ravencroft stuff from Marvel, essentially.
Yeah.
Like the haunted area that nothing goes there or anything like that. No one's tried to live there.
Well, I wouldn't want to live somewhere that just randomly exploded.
Hey.
Yeah, that'd be bad.
That would be bad.
But at least you wouldn't have to worry about people coming on your property.
That's true.
Well, that's true. That is true. You may not have to worry about going on your own property after a while anyway, because you'd probably die. There are some other really strange things that I've heard about in Russia, like landmark related things or natural. Like, there's a lake that is very strange in Russia. I think actually this might be it right here. Or if an alien set of, oh no. Anyway, yeah, Russia has some really strange natural like phenomena. But Yeah, it's, the longer we do the show and the more stories we like cover and mysteries and theories, the more I realize like planet Earth is a weird place. This is a weird
scary.
planet. It is a
Damn
scary
nature.
planet. I mean, we have
scary.
exploding forests, invisible fire, which is now a thing apparently.
Yeah.
Aren't you glad I told you about that?
I'm very glad. I'm just going to be like paranoid that I'm on fire at all times.
Because you're on fire at all times now.
Yes. I'm just going to be dousing myself in water just all the time. And the big gray man who doesn't look like a bear. That is probably my favorite thing out of this. I should make a shirt that says big gray man with a bear on it and just a line underneath it that says not this, or like does not look like this. Does not look like a bear.
It's a shirt that is all the gray man, and then just on the back it says not a bear.
Not a bear. Oh man.
It
reminds me, what was the Mad TV skit? The Look Like a Man. You guys remember that?
He look like a man.
Yeah, look like a man.
Oh.
Can you describe the perpetrator?
Miss Swan. Miss Swan,
yes. Oh my god.
Any last thoughts on the list? Anything really stayed out to you as really strange?
I mean, it was all really strange.
It makes me not want to live in Circleville. Yeah, Circleville.
Does not want to live in circles. That's not. Circles. I'm not up for that.
So I'm not going to live in Circleville, Ohio. Okay. I'm not going to live in Scotland because all the weirdest like cryptids are honestly in Scotland.
That is true.
And I'm not going to the bridge at Overton. So I'm basically going to make a list of, how people have a bucket list. I'm going to make a list of all the places I'm not going.
I like it.
It's like, so we're going to go to this town. They have a really nice bridge. No, we're not. Yep, that's on my list. Can't go there. There was a creepy thing that happened there once. Yeah, no. Actually, I do want to go to these places, all of them.
Gary's going to be the guy that in a couple years we're going to learn he's created a searching database where you can type in any city and it'll tell you the closest conspiracy so that he knows where it's safe for him to go. So he's like, I want to go to, let's go to this place. Wait, you know what? Let's search this up. And nearest one is 60 miles away. We are solid. Let's go.
Good. Let's do this.
What about this town? No. Someone reported that they may have seen a ghost in their house there. Yeah. I can't go there. Yeah.
See, I will go to all of these places, but I'm going armed. Just in case.
You got to arm yourself against the big gray man. Or
exactly.
The bridge that dogs jump off of.
Just irritated the shit out of him with my 9mm. Run!
Why'd the dog jump off the bridge? Well, Andy was swinging his gun all over the place. Shooting a little bit there.
He got scared. Out of the Scottish Highlands, and you're like, what's going on? I'm like, I shot at something, and the only thing I can tell you for sure is it did not look like a bear.
That's hilarious. That fire thing also reminded me that, like, flames don't cast shadows, which is obviously, it makes common sense, but it's still eerie to see like a candle and no shadow from the flame.
Yeah.
Anyway, fireball on fire. How to light a fire. Fire soldier. All right, I'm going down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, what is going on? We started closing off the show and we
close the episode. We're going down a rabbit hole.
Yep. All right. Thank you guys, ladies and gentlemen, for watching this episode of Mystery Cast right here on Tales of Earth or on twitch.tv/comicstorian. You can find Dan. Where can they find you?
They can find me at Dante Producer on Twitter and Instagram and Dante Streamer on Twitch.
Andy?
You can find me for I Am the Andy on Instagram. And I've also made a Tinder account called Dante Lover. So
nice. I thought it would be London Hammer. I thought we landed on London Hammer.
No, I like Dante Lover.
That's in the description.
Okay. Yeah.
AKA the London Hammer.
AKA, him. Yeah. You can find me on YouTube at Film Circuit and Twitter at Film Circuit and Instagram at Northward Films. Thank you for watching this episode of the Mystery Cast right here where you watched it.
Bye
guys.